Welcome back to the Layoff series. This is part 2. In part 1, we spoke about the silent mistakes people make at work without even realizing it. Mistakes that quietly put them in the danger zone. And if you haven't watched that yet, I strongly recommend you do, because part 2 will make even more sense once you understand how those mistakes slowly build up. But here's where things get even more serious. Most companies don't lay off people randomly or repeatedly. They usually do it in one single shot, not over multiple rounds. Because repeated layoffs damage employee morale, create panic, and impact overall productivity. And if you observe closely, these layoffs tend to happen around very specific times, usually mid to late in the financial year. That's when companies are preparing their annual operating plan for the next year, finalizing budgets, finalizing hiring plans, and at the same time doing downsizing to align with the exact financial numbers they must hit. And here's the important part. Before a company actually lays off someone, they give out signals, small symptoms, behavioral changes, responsibility shifts, tone differences. Most employees never recognize these signals until the final email arrives. So in this part 2 video, I'm going to walk you through the exact symptoms companies show before they lay you off. If you understand these early warnings, you can prepare yourself and in many cases, even save your job. Let's get started. Symptom 1. Your work suddenly has no value. One of the earliest and most painful warning signs is this. Suddenly, your work has no value. Your contributions are ignored. Your efforts are undervalued. Small slips are highlighted publicly, and you start feeling cornered in meetings. Let me give you a few real examples so you can instantly recognize this pattern. When your contribution is genuinely valued, conversations sound constructive. Something like, here is the outcome we expected. You've done a great job. The lessons learned are these. That's a healthy environment. Outcome appreciated, improvement discussed respectfully. But when your value drops in the eyes of leadership, the tone shifts. Suddenly the feedback becomes negative, even when the results are good. You'll hear things like, the outcome is fine, but let's be honest, this was mainly due to someone else's contribution. You were not on top of things. This is not acceptable. People stop focusing on what you achieved and start zooming in only on what you didn't. That's a red flag. Here's another example. Your small mistakes, things that normally would be discussed privately, are now brought up in broader meetings. This is not normal. In a healthy professional environment, the rule is simple. Praise in public, discuss weaknesses in private. But when your shortfalls start getting discussed publicly and in front of multiple teams, it means the narrative around you is shifting and not in your favor. Everyone is human. Everyone has shortfalls. Shortfalls are learning steps. But when even minor issues are amplified publicly, it's a sign that someone wants to shape a negative perception of you. Here's another one you must notice. You get put on the spot in big meetings. You're asked to present something unexpectedly, without preparation. And the moment you struggle, the public feedback starts. You should have prepared better. You need to be more thorough next time. This is not random. This is how narratives are built. And one more subtle symptom. People stop asking for your input on discussions where you were always involved earlier. Suddenly, you're just a listener, not a contributor. Your voice doesn't matter anymore. When these shifts start happening consistently, it means leadership no longer sees long-term value in your role. And that's when you need to pay very close attention. Symptom 2. You're being pulled into meaningless work. Another strong warning sign is when you're suddenly pulled into meaningless work, tasked with high involvement but low visibility, and usually the kind of work no one in the company actually wants to do. If you start getting assigned work that is thankless, low impact, or completely unrelated to your core responsibilities, and you're expected to deliver it alone, then you're quietly being pushed into a corner. Let me give you some examples. There are tasks inside every company that everyone avoids because the effort is huge and the returns are almost zero. Things like handling resourcing activities that constantly change last minute, organizing team outings or offsites, being responsible for coordinating annual events, joining groups where 24/7 availability is expected, managing logistics for internal training sessions, scheduling and facilitating meetings for large teams, or doing admin-style coordination work that has no strategic value. Sometimes you may even be asked to manage things like coordinating return to office compliance, convincing team members to come to the office, following up, tracking attendance. These are tasks that drain your time but add no real professional growth. Here's the pattern. You get pulled into operational chores that no one else wants to touch. You spend hours doing them, and they contribute nothing to your career trajectory. This is not random. This is how companies isolate an employee when they no longer see long-term value in their core role. When your main work is taken away and replaced with low visibility, low value tasks, you are not being supported, you are being set up. The moment you see this shift, recognize it for what it is, a quiet signal that your position in the company is weakening. Symptom 3. Consistent negative feedback. Another quiet but very serious warning sign is when you start receiving consistent negative feedback, especially from your manager. Normally, a good manager defends you. They shield you from minor issues, they clarify misunderstandings, and they balance out feedback from peers. That's what supportive managers do. But when the decision is shifting against you, the first thing that changes is their tone. Your manager stops defending you and starts echoing whatever negative comments they hear from peers, clients, or other teams. Instead of giving you context or support, they simply repeat the criticism word for word, sometimes even exaggerating it. This is not a coincidence. This is a signal. Let me explain how this shows up. You will start hearing things like, "I'm getting feedback that your ownership is slipping. People are saying you're not proactive enough. There are concerns about your attitude from multiple stakeholders." Suddenly, every conversation becomes about what you did wrong, even if the issue is small, shared, or not entirely your fault. And here's the most dangerous part. Your manager stops giving you solutions and starts giving you warnings. Feedback stops being constructive and becomes judgmental. Another symptom is when your past achievements no longer matter. No matter what you've delivered before, the narrative becomes, "That's fine, but recently things are not good." Negative feedback becomes a pattern, repeating, accumulating, and pushed harder each time. It feels like a script. And that's because in many companies, once leadership starts forming a negative opinion about someone, the manager aligns with that direction. They prepare the paperwork, they document conversations, they build a track record to justify a future decision. So when feedback becomes consistently negative, even for things you never heard complaints about before, it's a strong signal that the decision is already moving forward behind the scenes. At this stage, the feedback isn't about improvement anymore. It's about creating a case. Symptom 4. You are removed from future planning. One of the clearest signals that your role is losing relevance is when you are quietly removed from future planning. When things are going well, you are part of long-term discussions, planning meetings, strategy sessions, and upcoming project conversations. You are involved because the company sees you as part of the future. But when that changes, it's not random. Suddenly, you're no longer invited to roadmap discussions. Your name disappears from planning emails. Important meetings happen without you. Decisions are made, but you find out much later, or not at all. This shift is subtle but extremely powerful. It means leadership is planning the future and they don't see you in that picture. Here's how it shows up in real life. You were once the go-to person for discussing next quarter's goals. Now the meeting happens without you. You used to be asked for your inputs on upcoming initiatives. Now no one asks for your perspective. Your manager starts giving you short, surface-level updates instead of bringing you into the conversation. And when you ask, "Why wasn't I part of this meeting?" you get vague responses like, "It was a quick sync, not much was discussed. We'll update you if needed." These are not excuses, these are symptoms. Because in corporate environments, inclusion in future planning is a privilege. It's reserved for people leadership believes will be around to execute that future. So when your presence in planning shrinks, your importance in the organization is shrinking with it. And once you're removed from the future roadmap, it's only a matter of time before your role gets questioned. So these were the first 4 signals, the early warning signs most people notice but don't fully understand. But the truth is, the signals get much stronger from here. What happens next? The documentation pattern, shrinking responsibilities, someone else quietly taking over your work, and the sudden change in your manager's tone, those are the symptoms that usually appear right before the final decision. To keep this video crisp and focused, we'll continue the rest of the symptoms in the next part of this series. If you've seen even 1 or 2 of these signs already, you must watch the next video. The second half will help you understand exactly how companies finalize layoff decisions, long before you hear anything officially. I'll see you in part 2 continued. Stay aware and stay prepared.